Welcome to Of Sound Mind and Spirit. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Lisa. We're sisters walking together on a journey of faith. We're not perfect.
We definitely don't have all the answers. We're inviting you to walk with us as we explore ways we can better know and grow in our faith together. Welcome back to another episode from Of Sound Mind and Spirit. Howdy, Lisa.
Hey, Shelley.
Lisa, once again, we've got a fantastic guest joining us today. Please say welcome to Jessica Everly.
Hi.
Hi, Jessica. Jessica, we've brought you on today to talk a little bit about following God's calling and His timing and how that led you to your first novel, Roses in Rome. Could you tell us just a little something about yourself?
Sure. So I am originally from the Midwest, from Iowa to be exact. And my husband and I met in Chicago. And then his job transferred us down to Texas. So I am a Texan now. We've been here almost 10 years. We have 3 kids and 2 pups.
Fantastic. So I'm curious. I did get an advance copy. I have read the book. I enjoyed it, especially lots of little scenes we'll talk about here and there. But I'm really curious to find out how you were called to write this book.
So I've always loved reading. Reading is something that since I was a little kid, when I would go down for naps, I would pull all the books off the shelves and read. So I've always been a reader. And English was that subject that just came naturally to me. I love to read. I love to write. I would much rather write a paper than take a test kind of a person. So I knew that was always something that I enjoyed. And I thought, well, someday I would like to write a book, but it was kind of a far off dream. Like someday I want to go to Paris. Someday I wanted to write a book. And so I actually am trained as a speech language pathologist. And so I pursued that career for a number of years until I had our son, who was our firstborn. And then I stayed at home full time with our kids, which was really my biggest dream of all. I wanted to be able to stay at home with my kids if that was possible. And so fortunately, we were able to make that work. And I stayed at home. I was actually going to go back to speech language pathology and then got pregnant with our 3rd baby. So God was not calling me back to speech pathology. So I stayed at home with him. And then when he went to school full time, my husband and I had a conversation about what I was going to do with my time since I had a full day and hours to be able to fill. Mm-hmm. And he said, you've always wanted to write a book. Why don't you take this time, take a year and see if it's something you enjoy. You might hate it. You might not enjoy it at all. And so I did that. I took the time to sit down every day, type out 1,000 words until I had what is now the first draft of Roses in Rome. It took me about 9 months to write the first draft. It just took a long time because I'd never written a book before. And I fell in love with it. I loved writing. I loved creating the characters and the setting and finding out what happens next. So I write, they call them pantsers, people who kind of like write by the seat of their pants. So I decided to write that way. And it was such a blessing because every single day I didn't know what was going to happen in the story. It was like reading the story. And it was awesome. And it really, I think, writing the book that way allowed God to really be present in the process of writing it and creating the content that came from it. Because I think had I outlined it, I would have wanted to do it my way. And I would have wanted it to be what I wanted it to be. And what at the beginning of the story, we find the main character, Sienna, is she's kind of lost everything that she had. And we don't know why. And throughout the course of the story, we find out what happened in the past and then what's going on in her present. And so I didn't know what happened to Sienna. And I was just trying to find out, like anyone who's reading the story, what happened to her. And St. Catherine of Siena was a strong force in writing this book. And I can kind of go into that a little bit if you want me to. But what happened to Sienna had a strong connection to St. Catherine of Siena. And I know that was of the Lord. And it wasn't anything that I did or came up with on my own.
Well, now I'm curious. When you first sat down, okay, I'm going to write a book. And I sit down with either the laptop or the notepad, or however you write. did you at least have an idea, or did you just basically say, okay, I've got a character, what should I call her? And I'm going to put her in a setting. You said you're from Chicago. I know this story begins in a brownstone in Chicago. I'm not spoiling anything, giving that away. um, was the character kind of there in your mind, or was that kind of a little bit autobiographical?
So how it started for me was, I told Shelley this. We had been attending St. Catherine of Siena in Carrollton, Texas, because our home church was under construction. And so we'd been going there, and I thought, oh, that would be a really good name for like a mother-daughter duo. Catherine would be the mother, Sienna would be the daughter. That's a really pretty name. I like that for a character. And maybe they'll travel somewhere. That would be cool. So what came from that was Roses in Rome. They travel to Rome. It is the mother-daughter story, but it's so much more than just a mother-daughter story. It has a lot of maternal bond connections, but it became so much more than what I could have ever imagined. But to answer your question, so I had that seed, and that was it. I just sat down and I wrote the first scene, which is actually chapter 1 that comes after the prologue. And it was much longer and much sadder. And when I finished it, I thought, no one is going to want to read this. I can't do this. It's too sad. And so I put it away, and then God kept calling me back to that story. I tried to write something else, and he was like, no, that's not the story I want you to write. I want you to write this one. So I got the story back out, and then I finished it.
So throughout this 9 months of writing, who were your your cheerleaders? Who was supporting you and pushing you forward? Did you keep it quiet, or did you tell people you were doing this project?
I kept it very quiet because I didn't even know if I could finish it. And I didn't want to be that person who's like, oh, I'm writing a book, and then it never happened. So my husband obviously knew about it, and he was my number one cheerleader from the very beginning. He really championed this book. And he was the first person to read the book. And he is Italian. I'm clearly not. He is, though. And he's very, I'm going to tell you what I think kind of a person. And so I knew if he liked it, it was probably good, because he wouldn't tell me it was good if it wasn't. And so he was a big champion in that. My sister, I have 2 sisters, and they both read the book. My sister-in-law also read the book, and they were also huge champions for it. And I have a very dear friend here in Texas named Jen, who is a great Catholic woman, and she read the book as well, and has just been my, like, if you go on Instagram, she's the number one, like, commenting on all of my stuff.
That's
got a lot of support.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought Lisa had another one there. I was looking at you. Sorry. Sorry. My screen is shaking because there's a train going by and it makes the house shake. That's what's going on. I keep trying to stop it, and I'm like, oh, there's a train. So, Jessica, one of the things I loved about this story is the family connection, the female family connection, the mother-daughter relationship, the sister relationship that comes in. And then once they get over to Rome, no spoiler, it's in the title. Once they get over to Rome, the way that you connect the family together with the mother's grandmother. So we're talking a great, so for Sienna, it's her great grandmother.
Right.
The grandmother is not in the picture. But have you been to Rome? What inspired you to put that setting in there?
Yes. So I've been to Rome twice. I went, the first time that I went was in high school. Our high school created a trip for anyone who wanted to go. And Rome was the first place that we went. It was a tour, so we went kind of all over Europe, but Rome was the first place, and I just fell in love. And I threw my coin in the Trevi Fountain, and I was like, I want to come back. I have to come back. And so I came back a second time with my husband. After we had been married, I think we're like maybe 5 or 6 years married, and we wanted to go there for our honeymoon. But at the time, we really wanted to start a family too. And so I happened to get pregnant. So we didn't go there for our honeymoon, but we decided later on, when the kids were old enough, that we would go and do that together. So we took a trip to Rome. I can't remember what year it was. It was pre-COVID. And he fell in love with the city. And it's just such a powerful place. And especially for Catholics, it just means so much to us. And I just love that city. I I made an Instagram video about, should I go somewhere else or should I go back to Italy? Because Italy is,
Yeah, I think I
my
commented on that
favorite.
one.
Yes, you did.
Rome, always Rome. Someday
Always
I
Rome.
say I'll go somewhere outside of Rome, like I'll go see Assisi or
Yeah.
Venice or Florence. But right now it's all roads point to Sicily and then Rome. So we
Mhm.
went last year and it was just breathtaking. So even as crowded and hot as it was a place I'll always go back. And so that's what I loved about it. I recognized a lot of the places where you were setting the stage when you have them at the Spanish Steps. It really
Mhm.
does come alive, and it made me remember being at the Spanish Steps, going into the Keats house there, where the poet
Mhm.
died, and all these other experiences. And the first time you have her going into the Vatican museums, or um, what is the art connection for you? Do you have a background in art?
I do not. I had to learn everything when I wrote this book. My middle sister actually is a great artist. She's so talented. And so I kind of asked her questions about, okay, when Sienna is sketching or painting or whatever, what would she be doing? What are the terms? But I did a lot of research on paintings, and I did a lot of research on how to analyze a painting and how to do a sketch. And so I a lot of YouTube videos and things like that to kind of figure out how all of that works. But the three paintings that I used, I wanted them to be from different parts of Jesus's life on earth. And so the first is the Nativity. The second is I can't remember the exact name, but the escape to Egypt, and then or flee out of Egypt or whatever it's called. And then the third one is the wedding at Cana. And so, so I included those three, and I really wanted all of them to have a rose in the picture. So if you look up the paintings that I was talking about, or the stories about, in all of them except for the second one, there are roses in
Mhm. And without giving anything away, can you just kind of say how you introduced the roses? Because that's early enough in the story. I think that it's not a
them. Right,
spoiler.
it's not giving it away. So when Sienna arrives in Rome, a bouquet of roses, a dozen roses, show up at the great grandmother's flat. And there's a note that has kind of a mysterious message to it, and there is no sender. So they don't know who sent these or why. And Sienna feels that she needs to really pursue who sent these and what was the reason behind it. And so that's kind of her focus throughout her time in Rome.
Mhm. Now, it's advertised as a contemporary romance. And what I'm trying to point out here is that there's multiple things going on. It's not just a romance as in girl meets boy, girl falls in love with boy, etc. It's also this exploring and kind of falling in love with yourself, which no, that kind of sounds a little, you know, prideful, but it's coming, I guess, like an awakening of self, and then the relationship with the sister, especially the shopping scene. And I loved that, by the way. And then, of course, getting to know her mom. The mom wasn't as much of a relationship as it was. I feel like the mom was kind of like Mary, kind of encouraging, guiding, leading her to discover the healing that she needed from the we don't know what's happened to her yet. That did drag on. I will tell you, that kept me reading, finding out, well, what happened to Sienna and Joey? Okay, what happened?
Yep.
You know, and you did keep me waiting quite a long time, which was good because it got me through the story. Well, I can't put this book down. I got to keep reading because, oh gosh, okay, we're 7, 8 months. Okay, because it does go back and forth. You've got us in the present day, then you pop back to, and it worked. It really worked. I'm very pleasantly surprised this is your first book because I can see God at work through you in this writing and in this story. So, what did you do with the final first draft? How did you go from first draft to publication?
So the real first draft I hand wrote, and I read Stephen King's On Writing to learn how to write a book. And he said, when you're finished with your first draft, put it away for a month and then pick it up again and have fresh eyes. So I did that. And then when I picked it up, I read the whole book in 2 hours. And I thought, this is not a book. So I had to go back and kind of take the pieces that I really liked about the book and rewrite. And so that's when I started typing 1,000 words a day until I had a full draft. And it took me about 9 months to get that completely finished to a place where I was comfortable having somebody else read it.
That's great. I think that's really important for a lot of people who want to write a book and that they think they're just going to sit down and put the whole thing down. But I like what you just said about setting it aside and coming back and realizing, no, what I have really is kind of a bare bones, not outline, but a kind of an essay that then I now know where I want to further develop it. So, yeah. How did you come up with the sister relationship in this book?
So Grace, who's the sister, was not in the first draft at all. And I thought I need something or someone to kind of add some excitement into the story. And so
sisters can always do that.
Yes. I thought, well, what if she has a sister and the sister is kind of someone who she looks up to, but she's jealous of her. So there's these conflicting emotions going on, and that kind of creates some fiction, some more excitement, or not fiction, friction, and more excitement in the characters and what's going on in their lives. And then she has someone to kind of bounce ideas off of too, which I do with my sisters all of the time. I call them and ask them, what should I do? And they call me and we complain about, so-and-so or whatever's going on. And I thought that dynamic would really benefit this story. And so I started incorporating Grace into the story, and I loved writing her character because she's kind of self-centered, but we need to give her grace because her name is Grace. But she really made the story fun to write. She kind of brings the fun element into the story.
Right. That. When Shelley was telling me before we came on that I haven't read the book, and I've already told you that, but I'm telling the listeners, when she was telling me that there was a really good sister relationship, and my first thought was she must have sisters, because I don't think you can quite capture, the way sisters interact and just the drama it can sometimes be if you don't have sisters. And you also have to, I believe, have a good sister relationship in order to write it without malice or, something coming across kind of ugly. And Shelley said she thought it was very well done.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of different scenes where you're in Sienna's head, and it's told from Sienna's point of view. And she thinks about something about Grace, and I'm nodding my head going, how does she know I thought that? Or how does she know I've said those words in my head? Or, I was telling you one before about why did she have to say that? Why is she being so judgy? And I know Lisa and I are both guilty of doing that to each other. I'm sure Lisa's thought it. And so that's universal, that we have relationships that Lisa and I always say, your sibling is your longest and deepest relationship because it's your first outside of your parents, but it's your first friendship. And it's the only person who's known you your whole life. And it's so I thought you did a really great job capturing it. There's some playful moments. There's some serendipity moments, like the bag of clothes showing up. I thought that was just the kind of thing a sister would do. I'm trying to guess. Oh, there was one thing. Hand me overs.
Yeah.
I like to call it, I go shopping in her closet.
Yeah.
So I do have one little thing, and that is that you named the niece, Grace's daughter, Ellie.
Yes.
And did you say that out loud? Because as somebody whose name is Shelley Kelly, and I
never thought of that.
I read that, and you're like, her daughter's name is Eleanor, and she's already introduced Grace as last name the Kellys. So
yes.
Talking about the mailbox, the Kellys, and Grace Kelly, like the actress / Princess Mother.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there going, then I'm reading, and they introduced the children, and her was it a 6-year-old niece, Eleanor, parentheses, Ellie. And I'm thinking, Ellie Kelly, Shelley Kelly. This is definitely a God moment, because I'm, those of us with the rhyming names, we get it.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious, because I had many times if I had read this story, I never saw that.
Yeah, and I get it. It wouldn't have even probably tripped in your brain.
Hey, Shelley, you probably didn't realize it before you said yes to Sarah's proposal that your name would be Shelley Kelly.
Actually, I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I'd had that conversation with mom. She's, how are things going with your new boyfriend? I've seen y'all gone out a few times. Are things getting serious? And I said, oh, mom, his last name is Kelly. How serious can it really get? I mean, if I married him, I'd be Shelley Kelly for the rest of my life. And we were at Grandy's in Plano. We were on Grandy's in Plano Parkway. I was like, oh, how seriously, mom, this couldn't possibly be. And then I like to say God laughed. He was like, ha, 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 what a great idea. That's cool. So,
Yeah.
but so that's my story. So,
Okay. So at what point did you tell the rest of your friends and family that you had this book, and did you share it with them?
So I had the finished draft, and I told just my immediate family that they knew that I was doing this, my husband and then my brothers, sisters, and all of that. And I didn't tell anybody else until maybe like the second year that I had been on this project. I didn't want to tell anyone, like I said, because what if I don't finish?
Yeah.
You know, that makes me look like a failure. You know, I'm being prideful. But my husband told everyone. He said, "Oh yeah, my wife's writing a book." Don't tell people.
That's so
So
sweet.
he was excited and telling everyone. Yeah. He'd be on his. He works in sales, and he'd be talking to somebody, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, my wife's a writer. She writes a book. I haven't even published a book yet." So
that sounds a little bit like a scene in the book.
Yes.
Somebody telling everybody something.
So once I had finished the book and I had started reaching out to agents, because I actually went the traditional publishing route first. I started reaching out to agents to see if they'd be interested in representing the book for a publisher. And then I started telling people about that. So I felt more comfortable once I was kind of finished with the book and in the process of getting it published.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us about that, because I know that also plays into the whole how God works and God incidences and providence, God winks. So
yeah. So I pursued traditional publishing, and when you do that, you have to have an agent who connects you to publishers and editors and all the important people who get the book from your computer to Barnes and Noble or wherever it is they're going to sell it. And so I really wanted to go that route because I thought, oh, that would just be really amazing if that happened. And so I sent 13 query letters out to agents, and I got one full submission request. So she wanted to read the book. And in the meantime, I got another rejection from an agent who said, I think you need to work more on your craft. She said, you need to hire a developmental editor. You need to take writing classes. You need to all of the things. And I was crushed because I felt like I had worked so hard and I felt like it was really good. And this was someone telling me you're not ready. And I wanted to be ready. And so after I got rejected from all 13 of those people, I decided I did hire a developmental editor, and I reworked the book and made it more like what it is today. And put it on submission again. And I reached out to 50 agents who all rejected me.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
It was so hard to get those rejections. But it was such a God thing. It was so, the rejection was a redirection for me. It really was, because looking back, I can see I don't think this book would have become what I wanted it to become and gotten into the hands of the people who needed it if it had gone the traditional route. It may never have even seen the light of day, to be honest. It has an element of faith to it that I think is not always celebrated in traditional publishing. Mm-hmm. And so once I'd been rejected by 50 people, my husband and I prayed about it, talked about it, and I said, well, my two options are I can either shelf the book, meaning that no one ever sees it, or I can start a new book. Because once you have queried agents with a book, you can't do it again. You have to have a new project. And so I said, well, I can either write a new book and try again, or I can self-publish the book. And he said, just self-publish it. So I said, like, it's so easy.
Well, he's in sales. He doesn't see the
I
marketing part
know.
as the obstacle.
Oh boy. So I said, okay, I'm going to self-publish it. I'm going to learn how to do this. And this is where God really started to open the doors for me. Um, I had a friend who said, oh, I know someone who's published a book. I can connect you to her. And I started talking to this woman. Her name was Nancy. And she said, oh, I'd be happy to read your book. And I said, oh, that's great. Yeah. Let me know what you think of it. So she emailed me 2 days later and said, I can't read this book. There's too many grammar errors in this book. Once again, humbled. I said, oh, okay. I'm sorry. She said, but I was an English teacher. I was trained in this, and I would be happy to help you do the copy edits and the line edits.
Mm.
And I'll do it for free because I love to do it. And I said, okay, great. So I had my copy editor and my line editor. And then my neighbor said, oh, my niece is self-published. She could probably offer you some advice. And I was like, I'll take all the advice I can get because I don't know what I'm doing. And so I reached out to this woman, Elisa, who I call my fairy book godmother, because she knows everything about the self-publishing industry. And I said, I've got some questions. Would you be willing to answer them? And she said, yes, but actually, I am launching a business in helping authors like you who are first-time self-publishing to get their book up and going for the first time. I can create a website for you. I could create a book cover if you need it. I can do all the things that you need to create a book. And I said, sure, that'd be great. So she said she would do that for me for free because she had never done it for someone else. And so I was kind of her guinea pig. And as she was reading through my book, she said, I've noticed that you have some Italian in the book. I happen to speak fluent Italian. Would you like me to correct any grammatical errors? I said, sure, that would be great. So all that to say, I just felt like throughout this entire process, God was constantly sending me people or, little nudges that would keep me on track to, yes, this is where I'm calling you. This is what I want you to do. You're on the right path. Here's a sign. And it's just been amazing. It has blown my mind how he has just shown up for me time and time again, how St. Catherine of Siena's prayers have just really pulled this book through to make it what it is and to get it to its publication.
Wow. I love that you, everybody has rejection at some point and stumbles and things don't go smoothly. And I absolutely love that you shared that with us and that you prayed your way through it. You just found a way through it and opened yourself up to whatever God was calling. Was it to put it down or keep going? And not only did you keep going, he kept nudging you down the path and putting the right people in your place. And that is really lovely. And if I'm correct, well, I don't know when we're airing, but it's not out yet as of today. It releases October 5th.
October 8th.
October 8th on Amazon.
Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah,
And it's,
you can get
okay.
I was going to say, you can get a paperback version on Amazon. And it's exclusive to Kindle. So if you want to get the ebook, you can get it through Kindle. Or if you are a Kindle Unlimited member, you get it for free.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh, good.
I think this will air after that. So the book should be out by the time people are hearing this. So, go check it out.
Yeah, I did really enjoy it. Like I said, it was a multifaceted book for me that I'm surprised it's your first book. And I love hearing you tell about how many different obstacles you ran into and then had to overcome the whole, what you wouldn't think of, like the line edit, the development edit. And that if we were having a theme on our podcast this season, I think it would be people who have had a calling and how God leads them through it. Because somebody else we've talked to recently, same thing. It's there's a calling from God and he just doesn't let you fail. I mean, you might think you're hitting obstacles that are failures, quote unquote, but they're not. They're opportunities for you to say, okay, God, if you want this to happen, something, give me a sign. And I know we're not supposed to test God, but give me a sign. Show me what the path is. Lord, here I am. Where would you have me go?
Yeah.
Okay, here's my neighbor. Hello, here's my neighbor. Would you like some help?
Well, and then kudos for recognizing the sign. Because usually with me, it's like, God, let me know if I'm really supposed to do this. And then God's like, here you go. And then I'm like, no, really, like, let me know.
Did you not hear me the first
That
time
way.
or the second time?
Yeah,
Yep.
a little hard headed. So I guess I hate to say the big question then is, do you have another book in you? Is there something else bubbling that you want to work on or do?
I do. So while I was waiting for my developmental edits last year, I wrote a second book, and so it is still in its first draft stages. It needs a lot of work, and so I kind of put that one on the back burner. And then my husband and I took a trip to Nashville this summer, to Tennessee, and while we were there, we went to Mass, and the reading was Martha and Mary. And another sister duo.
I know that one.
And I felt inspired to write a story kind of based on their personality. So I'm currently writing the first draft of that book. So my hope is that either of those will come out next year.
Fantastic.
That'll be fabulous.
Yeah. So you said that the first draft of this Roses to Rome, Roses
in Rome. Yep.
in Rome. Thank you. I had the roses in the Rome part. My apologies. This first draft was about 9 months in the making, but all told, how long has it been since you first started to? All right, you're launching.
3 years. So it's been a 3-year project.
There you go. Anybody out there listening who thinks I want to write a book, give yourself grace and give yourself time.
Yeah.
What do your kids think about this?
They think it's so cool. When I told them I was going to be on a podcast, they were like, "Are you famous?"
Yes,
I
honey.
don't know about that.
That's so cute.
But they think it's really, really neat. So, and I'll talk to them about, I've got this story idea. What do you think about this? And they kind of get involved in the process, and they've got ideas they like to give me. And my daughter likes to write too. So she writes. She's actually a really good songwriter. She writes amazing songs. And how did you do that?
I love that you're modeling that for her, following your dream and following what God's asks you to do and trusting through all the failure. So if she does something like that, you'll be there to kind of walk with her on that journey too.
Oh, absolutely.
Whisk her away to Rome.
And she knows that it's just because you're called to do it, it doesn't mean it's going to be quick or easy.
No, probably not actually.
I think that's something most of us forget from time to time.
Okay. Well, Jessica, is there anything else that you would like to tell our listeners about your book, or to encourage them to run out and grab a copy?
Yeah, I just, I love this story. I love the characters. As a reader, my favorite thing about reading books is finding characters I can fall in love with, experiencing all the emotions. I want to cry, I want to laugh, I want to fall in love with the characters when they are. And I want an element of faith to it that brings me closer to God. So I think that that's what this book tries to do. And I hope and will pray for the readers that when they pick it up, that that's what they experience.
Great. So now, Jessica, we ask all of our listeners if they have a sister, which you've shared. You have two.
Yeah.
Our guests.
I'm a listener too.
Yes.
Now, Jessica, we ask all of our guests if they have a sister, which you've already admitted that you have two. If they have a sister story they can share, and I always add now, one that won't get you in trouble.
Yes, I do. So this story is about my youngest sister. Her name is Mary, because all good Catholic families have a Mary in their family. So she is 8 years younger than me, and was recently married a couple of years ago, and really wanted to start her family. And it just wasn't happening for her. And so I knew that was causing her a lot of stress. And so this was around December, and I knew Our Lady of Guadalupe's feast day was coming up. And as a good Texan, we love Our Lady of Guadalupe. And so I thought, well, I'll do a novena for her and just pray over her during that time. And so I did. And then 9 months later, my nephew was born. Aww. And I have to add, his middle name is John, which in Our Lady of Guadalupe story, we know Saint Juan. Diego is an important part of that. And so I called her yesterday to ask if I could tell that story. And she said, sure. But I don't think I even knew you did that. Oh, well, you're welcome.
Aw.
That even makes it a better sister story, because sometimes as sisters, we don't actually know what the other one is doing. But yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah. That's my sister story.
Great. And then, is there a particular, I know you've mentioned St. Catherine of Siena already, but is there a particular saint who's walking with you right now at this stage in your life?
St. Catherine of Siena still has a strong presence, I think, throughout probably the publication of this book. But as of late, as I mentioned earlier, the book I'm currently working on, I always try and incorporate a saint's name into the characters of my stories. And so I would say St. Martha, St. Mary, and St. Anne. St. Anne has really been on my heart lately. So I don't know where she'll show up in the story, but she's on my heart.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I like that. I like that. I really like your story. I like that you're so enthusiastic, and that you've just been working so hard. Just keep going. I like that. I think a lot of us, you think things should be, on our time, and we kind of forget that no, good things are still coming.
Yeah. Well, I'm still learning that.
God is always faithful. So.
He is.
Doesn't give you wishes and dreams and take them away. He gives you wishes and dreams and tells you to work for them.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. So.
All right. Where can our listeners find you, Jessica?
So I'm most active on Instagram, and my handle is at Jessica Everly Writes. I also have a website, jessicaeverlybooks.com. So you can find me on there, and you can also order the book. I have an Amazon link on there. So when you're ready to order the book, you can order it from there.
Great.
Perfect.
And we'll include that link in our show notes so that anyone listening, like they couldn't find it on Amazon, but if they need a quick link, they can go straight to our show notes and find it there. So
perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here, Jessica, and sharing really your gifts with your gifts with all of us, and your story. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This was such a fun conversation.
Good. All right, dear listeners, if you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, we want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We appreciate you listening to Of Sound Mind and Spirit. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Your feedback helps us grow and bring you even better content. Stay connected with us and join the conversation on Instagram and Facebook at Sound Mind and Spirit. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. All right. Thank you, ladies. And we will see listeners next time.